student testimony. A young lady's going to come and tell you how God has worked in her life. And Sarina is extremely articulate. I think you'll enjoy hearing from her. And Sarina is one who, when she has discovered the truth, works diligently to apply it to her life. So please read her and listen to her story.
This story is about my unforgettable journey. But before I take you on this incredible ride, as some of you may know, I have an older sister who has taken this ride before me. As she was taking a class, I was looking for the change I would expect to see in the way she treated me. Then I realized that it would take a lot longer than 9 months to change her. When my journey began, it was time for me to stop worrying about the speck in my sister's eye and to start worrying about the log that was in mine. That scripture is not an exact quote, but Jesus was teaching me to worry about the changes that need to be made in my life. As we went through the Catechism lessons, there was one in particular that stood out about how you don't have to live in fear because there are twice as many angels as there are demons. Also, God made Satan. He is more powerful than him. I learned that I should not get angry with my sister, even if she leaves her toothpaste out and I have to pick it up every single time she uses it. Because I'm a perfectionist and need things to be clean and neat. God did not get angry even though we messed up his perfect world by acting on our own pride and sin. And here I did just that. This truth came alive to me in foot washing. The week before foot washing, we saw in church through the Easter experience of how Jesus became the lowest servant and washed the disciples' feet, when a few minutes earlier they were fighting over who sat next to Jesus. It was captivating because Jesus washed his betrayer Judas's feet. Before seeing this video, I didn't really believe people when they said it was going to be fun. I seriously did not believe them. I wasn't sure how washing someone else's feet could be awesome. While I was doing foot washing, the video helped because you now knew you were becoming a servant like Jesus. Right after we were done with foot washing, the counselor said foot washing can also be done by serving others. I learned that I was becoming a servant by putting my sister's toothpaste away. Let's go back in time 2 years ago, when my sister gave her testimony. She had said she was determined not to sin anymore, but hours later, she sinned by yelling at me. I was determined to not do the same thing, but to not sin anymore. I mean, as you all have learned, I'm a perfectionist. What could go wrong? After I was baptized, I knew that was not going to happen. In baptism, I did not feel what I was expecting to feel, which was feel brand new. What I really felt was wet. Later, I learned from Mrs. Warman that the change is not what you feel, but the change is in the heart. Just like how Mrs. Warman reminded me about how baptism is not a feeling, but a change of heart, the homework helped to remind me of the lesson that was taught in class. Mrs. Warman always used stories or examples while she taught. It made the class even more enjoyable. 2 years ago, when my sister Shanna was taking catechism, I can remember her saying every Sunday morning, "Let's go, I don't want to be late." I didn't really care if she was going to be late. But when I was going through Catechism, I noticed myself telling my family the same thing. I also thought that I would never get the memory work done. I started out memorizing the shorter verses first, and it turned out that I got it done faster than I could think. One of my scriptures that I had to memorize was the Apostles' Creed. After a couple of weeks after I was done, they would put the Apostles' Creed on the board. I noticed I didn't have to look at it to recite it. I memorized the extra credit work because I wanted to get the prize they had spoken about. It came down to the point where I wanted to be the first one done. Thanks to my dad, we got to church a half hour early before anyone arrived, and I was the first one done. Thank you, Mr. Stogard, for planning the parties. I always looked forward to them and had a great time. The pizza, cookies, and pop were amazingly good. I would like to thank Mr. Warman for listening to my scripture memorization. To Mrs. Warman, thank you for making the class lessons really enjoyable. Thank you, classmates, for making the class memorable and humorous. Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Choir, for making our class a memorable one. I had an unforgettable year. Oh, and I can't forget, I would like to thank my sister Shanna for being used by God to teach me valuable lessons, even if it was through toothpaste. Shanna, would you please stand up?
Thank you for coming and being part of our celebration. And just think, were you this brave when you were 12? An amazing, amazing group. Thanks for being part of our celebration.
Now you know what I mean by having gifts and talents that someday are going to bear fruit in a lot of ways. If you learn nothing else this morning, learn to let your brothers and sisters have a break. When you know that you need to be changed more than they need to be changed, then you've gotten a hold of something.